In this video, we're going to talk about prepping ourselves to buy an HRIS. This seems complicated and especially daunting for those of us in HR who are people, but I have someone here who will shed some light on this. That's coming up right now. Hi there, I'm Andrea Adams, host of HR Shop Talk. On the show, we talk about all things HR with people who know a lot of things about the topics. I encourage you to subscribe to the show or podcast to keep learning from my guests. Today, my guest is Phil Strazzulla. Phil is the founder of Select Software Reviews, and unless I'm wrong, most of the information he offers on his site is free. Go check it out. Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. And I know you make money off of your site, but I feel like we need to thank you for what you're doing, because this really is frightening for HR people.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I originally started it as sort of just a side project and trying to share the knowledge that I'd gained about HR tech tools and how to buy them, how to get budget, all that stuff. And as you point out, it has transformed into a business. We do make money off of it, but we keep it free for all the HR practitioners out there. We have an advertising platform, so a couple of vendors can get more prominence on the site, but otherwise we're trying to keep it so that it's easily accessible and really action-oriented.
Right. Amazing. Okay. So we're going to talk about HR, like prepping to buy an HRIS today. So talk to me, like, where does prepping for an HRIS even start?
Sure. So I think that you've got to lay the foundation to be successful. You've got to figure out why this is important for your organization and your business. And what I like to do is encourage folks to talk to the heads of the different business units, your peer group, the person that runs sales or operations or whatever, and basically understand, like, what are they struggling with and how might your project help them. So there's lots of different HRISs out there, and you might be looking at one that has an onboarding solution, one that has specific time and attendance procedures, etc., that relate to your business. And so you want to make sure that you're doing something that's going to have an impact. And I would actually suggest that you quantify that impact in a spreadsheet, which I know a lot of people don't like spreadsheets. I like them, but I would put into your little Excel model, hey, here's why we're buying this thing. We think that we can increase our retention rate by 4 percentage points, or we think that we can decrease the amount of time that we spend during open enrollment, or whatever the case may be. And here's how that translates into dollars and cents. It's hard sometimes to translate that stuff into dollars and cents. I'm happy to walk through some examples. We have a lot of them actually on our website. We have all these HR tech ROI calculators where I go into excruciating detail, and you can download the Excel and make it for your company. What I also recommend is just try to find somebody in your network, your company, that maybe they have an MBA or a finance background, and they probably also think in spreadsheet, and have them help you to sort of build this business case. And you're building it to get the budget, but you're also building it for yourself to become a better manager, better allocator of capital. Because in the future, you can look back a year from now and say, okay, I thought that the reason we were buying this new HRS was we were going to save a ton of time during onboarding. But what actually happened is it has this really great engagement feature. And it's really the engagement feature that is driving all this value, and that's what's driving the retention rate. And so you can kind of look back on this almost like a journal entry and really learn about your own thought processes.
So I know this isn't exactly an ad for your site, but your site really does sound amazing. Do you have suggestions on your sites about what metrics to be tracking as someone's going into purchasing an HRIS? Because you could track anything. Yeah.
And realistically, if you're trying to track more than a handful, you're going to lose sight of it. You're going to spend a lot of time aggregating and cleaning data, and it's not going to mean anything. So I would pick definitely not one, but probably not more than 3 or 4 metrics that relate to your company. And so I say relate to your company, which is sort of like not the greatest answer in the world, but realistically, everybody's different. And so
Right.
for your business, you might want to track what percentage of employees are using the HRIS. You
Right.
might want to track how many people downloaded the mobile version of this. Maybe you have a very distributed mobile workforce, and it's really important that people download the app and they use the time and attendance module. Or maybe it's really important that people use the performance management, and that's kind of why you bought it.
Right. Right.
Whatever kind of
Okay.
makes sense for you, I would track those metrics. We do have a list of them on our site, and it's really up to you to pick and choose. My other piece of advice here would be to pick a couple that are kind of softer things, like, you know, how many people download the mobile app or something like that. And then something that's maybe more tied to something the CFO would care about. So
Okay.
either cost or profit. Maybe the time and attendance module allows you to pay people more efficiently, which is decreasing, the payroll expense by 3% because you're not double paying people. Or
Right.
maybe it's allowing, it's less frustrating for people to use that. And so you're seeing that people stay on longer, or pick up more shifts or something like that, which decreases your time to fill or increases retention, which has impacts on the P&L.
So I want to ask a question that will allow us to put this conversation into context of the larger HRIS implementation. So, or selection. So what are the broad steps when you're picking an HRIS? What are those steps?
So I think that first thing you got to do, obviously, is create a short list. So there's a few different ways you can get to your top 3 to 5 vendors that you actually want to spend time with. One is a really good thing, actually, is to ask like the smartest people that you work with. So your head of marketing, if they're sort of like this awesome person, they probably have other peers in other companies that they
Yeah.
think are awesome as well. And so, and those people might have strong opinions. The weird thing about HR or HR tech is that most people in the company use it. So it doesn't really have to be just an HR person who's giving you recommendations. That's also super valuable. But the CFO at another company, or the CEO or the CMO or whatever, might have equally valuable recommendations. And so you might want to ask folks like that. It's also good to get people from other functional areas to join your team on this journey, so they can help you to sort of whittle down the solutions, and they can also help you to do things like get the budget and also implement. Because again, everybody in the marketing team is going to have to use this thing, and it's great to have HR send an email, but it's even better to have somebody who's the head of marketing say, hey, I was part of this from the get-go. Here's why we're doing it. Download the mobile app, or whatever that call to action is.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to create your short list. You could obviously go to our website. That's one of the sort of key things that we do, is whittle down, 30,000 HRISs down to like, here are the 10 that are really good. Here's the cheap one. Here's the one that's put all the bells and whistles, etc. Obviously, you can ask your peers. My recommendation here is that when you do get advice, you want to drill into, why does somebody feel this way?
Right.
If you go on your favorite HR Slack group and you say, hey, I'm looking at HRIS and I'm a 100-person company, what do you recommend? You'll get a bunch of answers from people who might work at the company, or might be consultants that get a kickback from it, or maybe they just heard that this solution was really, really good, and it's like, oh, like, what did you like about it? I've never used it. I've never actually done a demo of it. I just heard it's really good. Oh, okay. So that's like not the most useful recommendation in the world. So you just want to be very aware of people's bias, including a
Right.
site like ours,
Right.
or G2 or Capterra, any of these sort of software review websites. And then you want to figure out, like, what are the 3 to 5 companies I actually want to spend time with, get a demo with them, and start drilling into the things that you really care about. I think it's hard to keep track of those things throughout all the other things that you have going on in your life and job. So I recommend creating a spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet have your tier 1 5 to 10 things you need to have. Maybe it's an integration with your recruiting system or your payroll system, Maybe it's that time and attendance module that I keep bringing up for whatever reason. It's just like
Right.
stuck in my head
Yeah.
today.
About it.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's engagement, performance management. And then it's like, what's the nice to have stuff? What's the pricing? And what I like to do also is I keep track of, do I like the sales rep or not? The reason I do that is because if you're a really good sales rep, you're organized, you're on time, you've got all the answers, you're a likable, trustworthy person, you can kind of work anywhere you want. Uh, and all you got to do is you show up to a company and you say, hey, here's my W-2 from last year. Here's my comp plan. You know, I'm a good salesperson. Hire me. And so salespeople want to work at companies that have really good products so that they can hit their numbers and, you know,
Right.
get their
Not
bonus
so
and all that stuff.
hard.
Yeah. So liking your rep and thinking, hey, this is a great person. I wish I could hire this person is actually pretty decent indicator for how good the product's going to be as well. So I keep track of all that stuff throughout the conversations. Usually try to just do one demo per solution. And then what I also do is I send each of the vendors my spreadsheet, but I black out the column with the other vendors and I just let them see their column. And what it allows them to see is that I'm looking at other solutions. I'm doing my homework. So don't BS me and also give me the best price. Because a lot of these things, it could even say on the websites, you know, $15 per employee per month, they're all negotiable. And if you go to them and make it clear that you're talking to 2 or 3 competitors, you're going to get a better price. You actually be shocked at the prices you can get for some of these solutions.
So, what's important in setting up the project for success so that you don't end up with the product going, ugh, that was a mistake. Can we do that again? Like, how do you avoid that?
A big part of it is picking the right solution that's right for your company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really having a good list of things that matter to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably stuff that you really like and also really don't like about your current solution. And your current solution could be, you know, a spreadsheet or, you know, Notion board or something like that. It doesn't have to be another HRIS, but doing a good job in the demos of not just sort of sitting back and taking information, but being proactive and saying, okay, well, this workflow is really important to us, or all of our managers like to do this, or we need to have this. This is how we run payroll now, or this is how we do open enrollment, or whatever the thing is. And maybe there might be, you know, 10 things, making sure that those all kind of check the boxes for you. And then 2 is, I think, you know, this sounds crazy, but I think a lot of companies don't follow the vendor plan for rolling something out. When you sign up with a vendor, they're highly incentivized to make sure that you're successful. The person that is your account manager, they're getting their bonus based on whether or not you stay on as a customer. So they want you to be successful more than you want you yourself to be successful, because that's how they're going to get paid. And the plan that they have is battle tested. It's tried and true. This is why they do what they do. So you've got to stick to their timelines. You've got to follow their instructions. You can make tweaks here and there, or hey, this is what's idiosyncratic about our company, or hey, I've got this interesting creative idea on how to message this or whatever. But a lot of companies, you know, it's a 4-week plan, and 5 weeks into it, they're doing the week 1 stuff, and that's a recipe for disaster. And so it really is, at that point, it's on the company for the failure, I think.
So you did touch on this earlier, but who needs to be part of the implementation team or the selection team?
Sure. So I think on the selection part of things, it's really wonderful whenever you do these larger projects, if you can get a cross-functional group together. So if you put it in Slack or at an all hands or, you know, internal message board, hey, we're going to buy a new HRIS. Here's why we're looking at it. Anybody interested? You'll probably find some people come out of the woodwork from different areas of your company that say, yeah, you know, I'll spend an hour every 2 weeks in a meeting, just kind of talking through like ideas we're looking at, questions or suggestions I have, etc. This sort of becomes like your board of advisors throughout this project. And there's 2 big benefits. One is diversity of thought. 2 is they're going to help you actually get across the finish line. If your CFO is like, whoa, I budgeted 10,000 for this and you're asking for 11, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like the head of marketing can come in and say, I've been doing this since the beginning. Like, this is the solution that we need. We need the extra budget. And then the last thing is they can help implement. So they can push it to their teams. It's a voice that's not necessarily HR that's telling them what they're doing and why, which can be powerful for employees. I think the other stakeholder to get involved is when you actually are doing the demos to try to get accounts, trial accounts, and to try to have employees, managers, and your team just mess around with it for 15 minutes. Like, is this something, here are three solutions. Can you spend a little bit of time in each and just tell me, do you hate one? Do you love another? The people, again, who are raising their hand to do that, they're usually like a little bit more sort of passionate, a little bit more zest than your average bear. And so they're going to give you some good notes. And that's going to help you, again, select the right thing, because from HR's perspective, like, you're looking at this thing from the stuff that you care about. And you're going to have some blind spots. And so bring in the people who are going to help you fill in your blind spots.
If this has helped you, subscribe to see all the episodes and comment. Have you made a mistake buying an HRIS at some point? And can you share your learnings with us? Let us know in the comment section. So, what are the important clues that someone or an organization should be shelving a project?
Yes. And sorry I had to move here. My old wrestling coach is currently mowing the lawn outside. So it was getting a little noisy, but hopefully we're okay inside.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay. So it's a great question. I think the first red flag is around data integrations and migrations. So in the vetting process, you have to be super careful and diligent when you ask questions like, does this system integrate with XYZ? For your company, it might be performance management, recruiting system, maybe a payroll system that you're going to have going forward, and you need this new HRIS to integrate with. And a salesperson is obviously going to be more prone to say, yeah, of course. Right. And what you need to dig into is, what does integration look like? Is it like downloading a CSV and like manipulating it and uploading it on a weekly basis? Because that's kind of a pain in the neck. Is it something that is an API that their development team has already built out? You click the button, you authorize it, and it works. That's obviously the ideal situation. Something in between, maybe some things data only goes one way versus another. So once you get into it, if that key integration isn't as good as you thought it was, that could be time to pull the plug and look for a new system.
Right.
I think the other big thing is you might be distracted by a very large priority, but you've got to kind of catch yourself, because I think in 70 to 80% of times during these implementations, there is a time when your team is going to lose steam, and you're going to be like, why did we do this in the first place? Like, why didn't we just wait another quarter or two? We have so much stuff going on. Right. HR is, famously under-resourced, overworked, asked to do too much. And so you're always going to want to push it till next quarter. The problem is you're never going to get to it. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed, just try to think through, okay, we got to get this done. How do we prioritize, move forward, and just make it through this implementation? And I would suggest that you rely heavily on your account management team, because again, they're economically incentivized to make sure that you are successful.
What do people underestimate when they're implementing an HRIS?
I think one of the trickiest parts of these solutions is getting adoption within your organization.
Oh, yeah.
The value that you're going to capture is going to be directly related to how many employees actually use this thing for what it's built for. Because a lot of these systems have really powerful features, but if nobody's using it, then you're not going to get any of the value from it. So I believe that, there's data migration, there's training, there's all this stuff, but a rock solid communications plan that really evangelizes, here's why we did this in the first place. We listened to you guys, we listened to the employees, and everybody hated that old system. And so we did all this work, and we did the whole process, and here's all the stuff that we did, and we chose the solution for these reasons, and here's why you're going to love it, and here's what we need you to do. That is extremely important. And one of the most important parts of that is explaining all the work that you did. There's a really interesting case study from Domino's Pizza. You might be familiar with when you order Domino's Pizza, it tells you like, Joe is putting your toppings on it, and Mary put it in the oven, and whatever, Phil is driving it over to your house. What they actually found is that when you tell consumers all the work that goes into a product, they appreciate it a lot more. And that's true in the business world as well. So whether you're talking to your executive team and you're saying, hey, like, look at how careful we were with your capital and your resources to make sure we got the right system, or you're telling employees, hey, look at all the stuff we did for you so that you can have a better experience, it's really important to explain that.
All right. Final question here. This is probably the question people are maybe wanting to know the answer to is, do you have a favorite HRIS? And if so, what is it?
So unfortunately, in my line of work, I don't like to give specific recommendations for two reasons. One is people will hate me and they'll send me nasty emails and say, why didn't you pick us? We sponsored your newsletter. But the real reason is that there is no best HRIS, just like there's no best ATS. It's what's the best one for you. For your company, you might want the cheapest option. For your company, you might want something that is really good for global companies, for really big companies, or for companies that have hourly workforces, or for companies where performance management's the number one thing, or whatever. And so that's what makes it hard. That's why we exist as a website. That's why our community exists, all this stuff. And I wish I could say like, this is the best one, everybody should buy it. But it just doesn't exist out there. And that's why on our page of like the best HRISs, I think we have 15 or so on there, because there's a best one for all those different use cases I just talked about.
Well, thanks, Bill. That was amazing. I did an episode on project management, which could come in handy. And that link is right here. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.